Hi everyone, welcome to the Wargaming Parrot. I'm David and today we're going to be talking about pros and cons of having conures. Before you get a conure, it's really important to consider these points because there are loads of great things about having them and there are some not so great things you need to be prepared for when you have a conure in your life. Just before I start, each bird is an individual. As I always say, you're probably getting bored of that by now, but it's important to remember. So while these things are common traits to conures, some may be a little bit more bitey, some may be less, or some may be more passive or more aggressive, etc, etc. So just bear that in mind when you're considering getting these lovely birds. So as with my last video on the pros and cons of cockatiels, which I'll leave a card for now, this video I'm going to start with the pros because I think it's important to start with the positives and then you can sort of think about all the great things about conures and then you can be like, here's some of the cons, okay, maybe they're not for me. My first pro, and one that attracts most people to conures, is they are exceptionally cute and cuddly. These little guys will fluff up, they will look adorable, and they love to cuddle up to things, either a member of their own species, or if they're bonded with you. So they will cuddle up, they will snuggle, they'll do all those lovely cute behaviours, and it is very, very pleasant to see and very interesting as a behaviour. As a species trait, they are probably one of the most cuddly types of parrot you can get. Maybe because in the wild they tend to cuddle up for warmth or for safety in their flock, and it is very, very interesting to see how they interact together as well, now that we have a few of them. My next pro of conures, like with most parrots, is they're so full of personality. These little guys are all individuals and they're all so different in the way they behave and the way they learn things and do things. I mean, for example, Pickles here, she loves her training, she loves her tricks, she's exceptionally cuddly with me. Scampi, our new rescue, he's quite quick with his training, but he's not that cuddly at all. He likes a little bit, but if he's done, he will show you. As well as being individuals, they're also exceptionally intelligent, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later. This may be a bit of a surface level pro, but I think it's important to mention is conures are very colourful parrots as well. They come in such a wide variety of striking colours. Pickles, for example, has loads of sort of peach colours and very striking green on her wings, whereas Scampi has this very striking red and yellows and just all these vibrant, lovely colours. And I think that's a very appealing aspect to these birds. As I mentioned before, they're also highly intelligent. Conures are very bright. They can learn behaviours, they can learn tricks, they can learn what you're doing and how to adapt to your behaviours. They can also learn, like cockatiels, how to train you into doing things they want you to do, which you not necessarily may want to do. For example, fetching them from certain places or giving them food and cuddles when you may not be so much in the mood. So they are very bright, and that is a very appealing quality to them.
Spin. Good girl. Wave. Good girl. Wings. Good girl. Shake. Good girl.
Like my cockatiel video, I'm listing this as a pro and a con because it's something you have to consider on both sides. They are very long lived. If you get a conure, they're going to be around for a long time, and that means you've got a companion for a very long time, and I think that's great. Conures are also very chatty birds. They're very vocal, they can be quite noisy, but they make all kinds of sort of weird and cute noises, and it's very interesting to hear them. Some can learn to talk. They're not the best singers, so generally you can't expect them to sing very much, even if they're male or female. The males can learn to talk, but singing, they may pick up some small tunes. But even so, they're very chatty, and it's very interesting hearing them chat away. I'm listing this as a pro because I feel that conures are very underrated birds. People love cockatiels, they love budgies and stuff, but they don't really think about conures too much. And they're just amazing. I really love them. I mean, since we got Pickles, I'm just like enamoured with them. I think they're absolutely lovely, charming animals, and I think anyone considering one should strongly consider them over other birds, assuming they're suitable for you. So now I've covered the pros, I'll move on to the cons of conures, because there's quite a strong list of them, just like with cockatiels, and there's many things you should consider before you get one. My first and biggest con for getting conures is they are exceptionally bitey. While they may be very, very cuddly, they also absolutely love to bite. Conures are very explorative with their beaks. That's how most parrots learn to do things and interact with the environment, but conures even more so, and they have a very strong beak as well. I got this lovely injury this morning, which was bleeding. Very nice, but it's something you need to bear in mind. It's something you need to accept with them, because even if you have a very, very cuddly conure who's really into you, there is a good chance they might nip you and bite you, and occasionally that will happen. So if you can be prepared for that and you're ready to deal with that, then you're sorted. My next con is very common again to most parrot species. It is noise. These guys are very noisy. The males even more so, and if you're considering getting a sun conure, they are one of the noisiest parrots you can get. They scream and scream, and conures in general like to shout, and their alarm call can be quite piercing. The males especially shout and talk even more, so if you're considering getting one and you can't handle a high noise level, they may really not be the bird for you. Conures are also expensive compared to other birds. The initial cost of getting a conure is much higher. In the UK, you're talking about a minimum of £200, which I think would be about $250 if you're in the US. And obviously after you've bought them, you need to pay for all the other stuff like food. And it's not just seed again, they need their fruit, their vegetables, they may need pellets and other supplements to their diet. So you also need to think about a nice big cage, you need to think about all the toys they're going to need, etc, etc, and the costs add up. So you need to be prepared for that high cost if you're getting a conure, because they do need a lot of bits and pieces to keep them happy. Now that leads me on to my next point with expenses. They need a big cage. We've kind of got Pickles in the minimum kind of size cage that a conure would need, mainly because she gets a bit intimidated with bigger cages. Our rescue is also in a similar size cage, although our plan is to put them in a much bigger one, especially when she's more used to bigger cages. But you need a big cage. Just like with cockatiels, they need lots of space. They may not be as good flyers as cockatiels, but they still need their exercise, they still need to explore, and they still need to move around. So do bear that in mind when you're getting one, that you need a big cage, you can't put them in a small one. Also, with that cage and when they're out and about, is they need lots of stimulation. So they need toys and they need things they need to interact with. No parrot should really have a bare cage, so you need lots of toys to play with outside, lots of toys to play in that cage. So again, that's adding to the cost of having one, and also adding to sort of like your burden, because you need to keep on replacing those toys and making sure that your conure is as happy as it can be. Conures are also very social birds, as I mentioned in my pros, so that means if you've got one conure, they're going to need an awful lot of attention from you. Even if you have a pair or multiple conures, they will need attention, they will need affection from you, and they will need your time. So if you haven't got a lot of time that you can dedicate to them, it's not ideal to have one, because as I said, they're cuddly, they're affectionate, they're intelligent, they need that interaction from you, they need that attention, which means you can just be prepared for them biting you and exploring on you and just being around you, because that attention is so important to them as birds. Leading on from that point, they also need lots of time out and about the cage. They're not a bird that's happy sitting in the cage all the time. They like to scrabble around, they like to explore, they like to be out and about with you. So you need to give them as much time out of the cage as possible. And we're talking about a similar time for cockatiels. We're talking about a minimum of 4 hours a day outside the cage. Preferably as much as you can give them. Like Pickles is out constantly. Scampi's not quite ready for that as he's a rescue, but we intend to have him out an awful lot too. Hopefully they can interact, because at the moment they're a little bit unsure of each other. But the point is they need to be out lots, and they need lots of time to fly, explore, scrabble around, and just imitate their natural behaviours. Now, as I mentioned, this is a pro. I'm mentioning the con again. These guys are long-lived. That means they're going to be around for a long time with you. And that also means that you need to be prepared for that commitment. These birds are going to be with you for a long while, and that is great. And you need to be prepared for that, and that you need to dedicate your time and effort for an extended period. Conures are, like most parrots, very messy. They like to throw their food around. If you've got substrate bedding like us, they will like to throw all their stuff all over the floor. So you need to be prepared for mess. They also like to poop. They're similar to cockatiels, and they poop quite often, every 10 to 15 minutes. So you need to be prepared to clean that up. And it can be a bit annoying sometimes, but I assure you it's worth it. But if you don't like mess, or you have stuff that's difficult to clean and you're not prepared to deal with that, they may not be the right bird for you. I just thought I'd scan around the stands that the birdies are on, the conures are on. And you can see absolutely tons of mess down here. This is very tame. I actually hoovered very recently, and they are messy. They love to burrow, love to kick around, and they will throw their food everywhere, so there's something to keep in mind. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or comments, as usual, please feel free to drop me a line. I'll be very interested to talk to you. If you can think of any more pros or cons about conures, I'd also love to hear them, and we can listen in the comments so people can learn from them too. But in the meantime, take care, thanks for watching, and have a great day.